Akhnisi rachamim Akhnisi rachameini Oy lifnei babal rachamim Oy mashmi yisfilo Oy yashmi yisfilo seyini Oy lifnei shoymeyat filo.
Hello everyone, this is the fourth in the series of controversial davenings during the high holidays, and today we deal with the controversy regarding so many of the prayers that don't seem to speak to God, but to angels. And there's so many examples, and I'll just give a few. On the second day of Slichos for Nusach Polin, Nusach Lita it's a little later, there's a pismon that starts with the words, Malachei Rachamim Mishartei Elyon, the angels of mercy, and we turn to the angels and not to God. More famous in the famous Hineni He'ani Mima'as prayer, in which he says, Shekol HaMalachim Shehem Po'alei Tfilot, all the angels that deal with prayers, Yaviu Tfilati Lefanecha, will bring my prayer before you. Not to mention the song you just heard, which is a beautiful nigun, but the words are very problematic. We say, Machnise Rachamim, Machnise Rachamenu. Whoever's in charge of bringing mercy should bring our mercy before God, and so on and so forth. We're asking angels to bring it before God, and the question is it permissible to say these words? Why would it be a problem? Because the Talmud Yerushalmi says in the Maseches Brachos that if someone has a problem, lo yitzaveach, don't scream lo leMichael v'lo leGavriel, not to the angel Michael or Gabriel, ela li yitzaveach v'ani oneh lo miyad. God says, scream out to me and I will answer. The Chasam Sofer in a famous tshuva explains that usually when you go before a king, you're a little nervous. You may stumble on your words. You don't know how to come before a king properly. You don't know the protocol. But God ultimately says to the Jewish people, you don't need anyone between you and me. You can come, you can stumble, you can stutter. I know what's in your heart, and therefore, mekabel b'sefer panim yafot afilu b'lashon elagim v'gimgum. Even if you stutter, God will favorably listen to your prayers. And indeed, the Rambam codifies, and many people say this ani mamin every single day after davening, in his Perush HaMishnayos, that one of the 13 fundamentals of faith, that hu asher ra'ui lo avdo, you have to serve God, ve'eno simkein lama shalamatem mimeno b'mtziut min hamelachim, and you don't serve anyone under God, namely the angels, ve'eno sinotam emtzaim lagia bahem elav, and you don't make them a means to get to God. Exactly what we said in all the examples that we just quoted. We're asking the angels sort of to be a mediator between us and God. And not just the Rambam, Maimonides says this, but Nachmanides, the Ramban, says this. Ha'ovdim lamalachim, those that serve the angels, or yachshavu sheyesh lam yecholet, or think that they have any sort of ability, or they should be a mediator between you and God. It's not even permissible to daven to them at all. This seems to be an absolute prohibition to pray to angels. On the other hand, we have many Gemaras which says that we did pray to intermediaries. Amongst them, a Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin. The Gemara says, Lo lam yivakesh adam rachamim. Person should always ask for mercy. And everyone should help him. And Rashi explains no more, no less, that we ask the angels to help us in this regard. So literally, a Gemara, according to Rashi, says, pray to the angels to help you. Not only angels, but on an ad hoc fast day and on a Tanit Tzibor like Tisha B'Av, you should go to a cemetery. The Gemara asks why. One of the interpretations is that the people that are dead should come before God and ask mercy for the Jewish people. So we're praying literally to the people buried there, not to God. And we all know the famous story in Masechet Sota that Kalev ben Yefuneh went to Ma'arat HaMachpelah in Hebron and went to the graves of our forefathers and asked them no more and no less, Bikshu alai rachamim sha'anatzel me'atzat meraglim. Ask upon me, ask on my behalf mercy, so that I do not stumble in the terrible sin of the spies. So on the one hand, we have many sources that say don't pray to anyone but God, but on the other hand, it seems like we pray to people that are dead to help us before God. We also have a Rashi that says we literally pray to angels, and this is a big nafkamina in a minhag that we have to go to the cemetery before Rosh Hashanah. Well, what are you supposed to do there? According to the Maharil, and that's what the Mishnah Berurah quotes in his name, namely, don't pray to the dead, pray to God and say b'schut the people that are buried here. But on the other hand, the Pri Megadim tells you exactly yesh tefilot masha omrim al hakvarim mashma k'tzat shemevakshim mi'et hanefesh she'al tzil tov ba'adenu. We ask for the soul of the person buried there to come before God. So it seems like we're not davening to God directly. And the Sefer Chasidim says, it's wonderful to go to a cemetery because it brings solace to the soul, but they also help us because we daven to them and they bring to God our prayers. So what should we do with these piyutim? So at the end of the day, it is a machlokas. The Maharal said very explicitly that because it looks like we're davening to angels, don't say any of these passages. In his words, davar she'ein ra'ui v'lefi zeh ra'ui lahagia, and therefore you should edit what you say in that. And the Korban Netanel, v'lifnei konech t'chinatenu hapili, and indeed it seems like it's talking to the angels. So therefore he says, this is a terrible thing. Charuzazo lo yishraetzli shenira kemitpalel le'emtza'i. It seems like we're davening to a mediator, and therefore he says this is against that fifth fundamental of the Rambam. On the other hand, we have to be honest. Many have said it. Going back to the Shibbolei Aleket, he says we say it, and it's not like any of the violations that we mentioned. And he mentions Rav Avigdor Kohen Tzedek, which he mentions a lot, quoting the Gemara in Sanhedrin and Rashi's Perush that you can daven to angels, and there's no problem. The Maharal says, even though I'm against it, he says maybe it's okay. Why? Because what we're doing is not praying to the angel. We're asking the angel to bring our rachamim before God. Namely, we're saying machnise rachamim, bring our rachamim before God. We're not saying angel, you can do it, but rather God do it, albeit we're asking his help. The Mahari Mibruna says that at the end of the day, we're a little scared to come before God ourselves, so we're asking for help. Exactly what the Chasam Sofer says we don't need, he says maybe we do need. And finally, the Mahari Asad said, if in all the generations they said it, then who are you to come out and say anything against it? It's printed in all the Sidurim, in all the Slichos books, and that's basically his claim. He quotes a source here and there, but his basic claim is if it's in there, it must be okay. The third point of view is the Chasam Sofer. He himself didn't say it, but he didn't want to impose it on the congregation. So what did he do? Since it said Machnise Rachamim at the end of Slichos, he went down Tachanun, and no one knew what he was saying and not saying. So he basically hid it that he's not saying it. At the end of the day, Rav Moshe Feinstein says some people do change the wording so that it says not, for example, Midata Rachamim Aleinu Hidgalgali, that's okay. V'lifnei konech t'chinatenu Hapili, before God, please bring our supplications. You change it to V'lifnei konenu techinatenu napila, that we will bring our mercy before God. And that's what his own father did, and he found it in the Siddur Iyun Tefillah. On the other hand, he says there's many materium for it, because at the end of the day, all you're doing is telling the angels, do your job. Your job is to bring our tefillah before God. All we're asking you is, do your job. And since we're only asking the angels to do what they're supposed to do, there's no problem. We're not davening to them per se. We're just telling them, do your job. At the end of the day, some people avoid saying these words. Some people change the wording, and others do say it, either because you're allowed to pray to angels, or because we're just saying, hey, help us out. Help us out to bring it to God. At the end of the day, angels, this is your job. Just do your job. We're just reminding you to do your job. Believe like, oh, and I feel